Good morning, everyone. Here's your Mormon News Update for December 2nd, 2024. First off today, we are going to go to the NZ Herald for an article entitled, What I've Learned Investigating the Mormon Church by Murray Jones. We will read some snippets from this article. It says, What I learned from more than 2 years of digging into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or LDS, who no longer officially call themselves Mormons, is that there are specific elements within its doctrine, norms, beliefs, and practices that have set the stage for abuse to flourish within the church community. And that's not even the worst of it. When credible reports of abuse come to light and are reported to church leadership, the LDS Church has developed a very specific and uniquely legalistic method which prevents some cases from reaching civil authorities. The church has claimed that we are unaware of any organization that does more than the church to stop and prevent abuse, describing its efforts as comprehensive and the gold standard. But when it comes to the appropriate handling of reports, the facts about the LDS Church don't match its rhetoric. A couple of weeks ago, the final episode of Heaven's Helpline was published, so if you want to get the full picture of the 2-year investigation, I encourage you to listen to the series, and I would add my encouragement to Murray Jones. The series was phenomenal. Now that it's all out there, I've taken some time to look at all the responses online, the Reddit threads, the blogs, the angry Facebook comments, the live YouTube discussions, and all the emails from listeners. I've heard from members of the church, past and present, who felt moved to share their experiences with abuse. People in New Zealand have told me they were essayed by a member of the church that they had trusted but then felt shamed, blamed, and discarded by their church leaders after reporting it to them. I've heard from a former high counselor, a middle-ranking regional official, who said they sat in a church disciplinary council and were instructed not to tell anyone about the confessed abuser in their midst. I've received testimony from current LDS members in Utah, the historic hub of their entire faith, with one telling me that they too had asked the church for advice about suspected abuse and were told not to report to civil authorities. And I've read swaths of accounts from bystanders, all with similar stories about a suspected predator in their congregation being protected by church leadership, while those raising concerns were ignored. I heard of 2 unrelated but astonishingly similar cases, one in Los Angeles, the other in Hamilton, where an alleged abuser had been reported to civil authorities only to be buoyed up by a wave of public support from others in their congregation, even after their conviction. These testimonies, sent from 5 continents by people aged from 18 to 80, are remarkably faithful to the playbook that became apparent during my research. On reflection, though, it does stand to reason because some of the structures that enable abuse and protect abusers are baked deep into the fundamental beliefs of the church. There's the patriarchal structure that codifies male authority over women in both the domestic and the spiritual sphere. There's the rigid vertical hierarchy of priesthood holders, which gives church leaders carte blanche to engage in and interfere with nearly every aspect of a member's life. There's the instinct to deal with issues in-house, embedded by a historical sense of persecution and a duty to protect the church's reputation, that leads to members reporting even the most serious of crimes to their bishop rather than to police or child protection services. This in turn means many of those abusers are dealt with by confidential church courts, known as disciplinary councils, with breathtakingly light punishments. And finally, and this is where the podcast got its name, there is the curiously corporate character of the church, which is why, when a bishop receives news of abuse in his ward, he's instructed to immediately call an abuse helpline, which will instantly loop him into a network of senior church lawyers who are typically members of the church themselves. As I investigated the LDS Church, it became obvious to me that there is no shortage of good, ordinary people who want to do the right thing for their families and their community, but they're inside a system where it takes extraordinary bravery and persistence to call out bad behavior, and then to follow through and ensure that action is taken. That's partly because this is an institution whose core beliefs require members to obey, to believe, and to put the institution's reputation over the well-being of individual members. This means good people can be complicit in bad things, and in the cases we explore in Heaven's Helpline, the church has instructed leaders to cover up some of the worst crimes imaginable. The LDS Church hierarchy is built on layers of priesthood leaders, from the father in the home to the bishop in a ward to the stake president overseeing a region or country, all the way up to the global leader, president and prophet, currently Russell M. Nelson, who turned 100 in September. The church's culture of unquestioning obedience and veneration of leaders means that when a church member learns of abuse, their first instinct is to tell their bishop, in the belief that this divinely inspired leader is the perfect person to remedy the situation. We also know from the church's own handbook that those bishops are then instructed to call the 24/7 church abuse helpline immediately. This connects them to a church lawyer. These conversations are confidential, protected by attorney-client privilege, but what we know from a horrific case out of Bisbee, Arizona, is that the church also relies on another privilege, priest-penitent privilege, to ensure that confessions remain confidential. Quite simply, the church's hardline interpretation of priest-penitent privilege, which is contested, enabled Paul Adams from Bisbee, Arizona, to carry on abusing his daughters for 7 years. So on current evidence, I doubt the Mormon Church is ready to unpick the patriarchy and obedience that's baked into its theology. I don't expect the Church's most senior global leaders to throw away their privileges and rank. It could be a while before the Church stops giving inexperienced lay bishops far too much power over the day-to-day lives of members. Reading and hearing about abuse can make one feel hopeless. The capacity for human depravity that I came across during this project was often hard to comprehend. The violent damage done to body, mind, and spirit can often never be repaired. But the part I truly struggle to understand is the calculating corporate mindset of the LDS Church. It appears the Church has tolerated the abuse of its members, including children, because it sees such a situation not as an urgent moral tragedy, but as a risk to be managed. A risk not to members, but a risk to the Church's reputation, a risk to its bank balance. So sure, we could sit back and naively hope that such a church will suddenly start doing the right thing, but we shouldn't be holding our breath. We shouldn't be waiting for the church to make the first move. Thank you so much, Marie Jones. And once again, I would urge everyone to listen to Heaven's Helpline. Next, we will go to the Danish news, where it says the Danish Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs has initiated a supervision case against the Mormons following their leadership's failure to report a man who actually assaulted his wife over several years, despite being aware of the crime. The case gained attention after being featured in a TV2 documentary. According to Minister Morten Dahlen, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had sanctioned the man with a year of silence in church meetings instead of informing the police. The man was later arrested and sentenced in 2022. Experts suggest the case could warrant the withdrawal of state recognition for the Mormon Church. The Mormons have asserted their compliance with legal proceedings. And now we will go to 8 News Now out of Las Vegas, where it says Lone Mountain community residents in the Las Vegas Valley are asking the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to mimic a good faith deal struck by a Texas town council and religious leaders, which would reduce the proposed temple's height and size. Lesnar, the mayor of Fairview, released an update Wednesday to mediation between the town council and representatives for the LDS Church, the 3-month-long journey for an agreement sparked by the town's initial denial of a building permit for the McKinney, Texas temple. The proposed temple for the Dallas neighborhood will now be no more than 120 feet tall and on a now reduced 30,000 square foot space. The height of the temple's spire was decreased by 54 feet and the footprint was reduced by 15,000 feet. The compromise in Texas astonished some residents of the Las Vegas community of Lone Mountain, who said they're hoping for a similar chance at mediation, but noted the stark difference from Fairview. It's wonderful for the citizens of Fairview, Sue Christensen, a Lone Mountain resident, said. Unfortunately for us in Vegas, I don't think they're going to be forced to the table. Christensen said she had communicated with residents of other communities who have had concerns with proposed temples from the LDS Church and felt the Las Vegas City Council was not as accessible as in Fairview. They don't even want to meet with us. It's almost like a joke. They want us to go away, she said, but the LDS Church has some kind of power over them by threatening litigation over and over, and they know they have the money to do it. Christensen and other Lone Mountain community residents have alleged the unanimous vote for the temple for the LDS Church was erroneous, pointing to an agreement which limits the height and size for buildings in the area. Las Vegas city staff argued the interlocal agreement does not pertain to religious structures because it does not specifically address churches or houses of worship. Why are we forced to take it, but in Texas they're being forced through mediation to go another route, Salmon said. It'll be interesting to see how they're going to answer that. Next up, let's read some portions of an article from the Daily Mail. A war of the words between a Mormon military man and a teeth whitening technician over their disastrous date has taken TikTok by storm. DJ Searcy explained in a viral testimonial that he was hoping to meet someone with similar values when he messaged Brianna Powers, 27, after spotting her very gorgeous profile on the Mormon dating app Mutual. Noticing she worked as a tooth whitening technician in Salt Lake City, he offered to pay for a $199 session with the possibility of a date if they hit it off. When Searcy showed up late for the appointment, Powers pulled out her phone and followed him to his car, demanding a $100 cancellation fee. The cringeworthy exchange, which she posted to her TikTok account, which has now been banned, has been viewed more than 2 million times. The military man's rebuttal post explaining what he says really happened has been seen more than 12 million times. I think I met someone possessed today, he told viewers. I'm done dating. The single dad initially worried he might have messaged a scammer after he suggested a meetup, and Powers responded to say she needed $2,000 to avoid eviction. He explained in the clip. He nonetheless pressed on, asking if she was all right before telling her, I'll just send you some words of encouragement and let you go, when she failed to reply. She replied 3 days later, saying she charged $199 for a teeth whitening and asking if he'd like to come in that same day. He agreed, saying he could get there in 25 to 30 minutes, but struggled to find a parking spot and arrived late, he said. When the two finally met, I was like, okay, I'm going to pass, Searcy recalled in his video. So I turned round and walked out the door, but this must not have been her first rodeo because immediately she starts filming. Her video shows the dejected soldier sitting in his car as Powers holds the door open and asks for the cancellation fee. This video is also going on Instagram, where I have 100,000 followers as well, and the Mormon dating groups of people to avoid. She snapped at Searcy while filming him. I hope you have a better day, he responded. Oh, I was having a great day until you showed up and decided to waste my time, Powers shot back. Would you mind if I close my door? He then asked mildly. I don't mind, ugly F, she replied. Powers' video has been her most viewed yet on TikTok, but the thousands of comments it has attracted have been overwhelmingly hostile. He's not ugly by a long shot, sweetie, wrote one. He kept his cool and he's a cutie. Thank you for your service, wrote another. I'm sorry, but this is no way to treat another human being who had no bad intentions, but just wanted to low-key take you out on a date, added a third. Searcy may have had second thoughts if he had known about Powers' lengthy rap sheet, which includes arrests for reckless endangerment, possession of a controlled substance, disorderly conduct, and criminal trespass, among others. In 2021, she punched a customer at a Utah tanning salon after becoming infuriated at requests she wear a face mask inside the business, Deseret News reported. Commenters warned him he had dodged a bullet. She literally hit you up at the last minute asking if you wanted to come in, wrote one. It's not like you made the appointment and canceled. You handled this very well, my guy. Props to you, added another. Yet another said, I just saw her video and seriously, you won. You're way too nice for her. This article goes to show that even an LDS or Mormon-themed dating app can't keep you safe. When I was Mormon, I was incredibly naive, and I'm certain I would have believed that being on that app would have led me to people who were safe. And last up to date, we will read an article from September 24th, 1972. There will be some outdated language in here that I will replace with more updated language. It says, Mormon Church President Harold B. Lee says it's only a matter of time before the NEGRO, which I will substitute with Black people, achieves full status in the church. We must believe in the justice of God, he told UPI in an interview in his small, conservatively furnished office in the administration building of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Black people will achieve full status. We're just waiting for that time. His statement came in reply to a question asking why the Mormon Church prohibits Black people from holding the priesthood, a practice that has brought protest and criticism from throughout the world. Black people and whites have demonstrated against the church on college campuses, terming the religion racist. Black athletes have refused to play against teams from Brigham Young University, the church-owned school in Provo, Utah. It is ironic we are called racist, Lee said, in light of all the work we have done with minorities throughout the world. The 73-year-old prophet, seer, and revelator for more than 3 million Mormons said the key to understanding practice of withholding the priesthood stems from God himself. Mormons believe that not only do persons have a life after death, they have a pre-existence, or life before birth. When a child is born, they believe believe he comes from a spirit living with God in heaven. And Lee said, a person's status on earth depends upon his conduct in the pre-existence. This is much the same as the general belief that a person's destination after death depends on his earthly existence. Therefore, Mormons feel that the status of Black people in mortal life is the result of something hidden in his pre-existence with God. Black people's membership in the church is estimated at 2,000, but it is hard to come up with an accurate figure because race is not specified in church records. Lee, who became the church's 11th president in July, shortly after the death of Joseph Fielding Smith, emphasized that Black church members are not forbidden admittance to the church's most sacred buildings, its temples. They can perform certain temple work if they are in good standing, and they can hold nearly any position of leadership in the church auxiliaries if they are diligent, he said. This is true for any church member no matter what his color or race. Lee, who at 73 looks and acts like a man in his 50s or early 60s, told of Mormon programs among minority groups throughout the world and said the church has done more for minorities than any other organized religion. The Book of Mormon, which members believe was translated from golden plates delivered by the angel Moroni to church founder Joseph Smith, is published in 17 languages. In addition, the church has missions in every country throughout the world that has freedom of religion. Lee said skin color is not what keeps Black people from the priesthood. It is strictly a matter of lineage and involves only African Black people. In comparison, he noted, dark or Black islanders such as Fijians, Tongans, Samoans, or Maoris are all permitted full rights to the priesthood. Ranking Mormons also say that their belief as directed by God is no more unusual than the Mormon belief that Jews are a chosen people and the Indian has a special promise. One fact, however, places all responsibility for change towards letting Black people have full church rights in the hands of God, according to Mormon belief. It must come in the form of revelation, or a divine communication from God to the head of the church. That's the way Mormons believe their doctrines have always been handed down since the angel Moroni first contacted Joseph Smith in a forest clearing in New York State in the 1820s. Our doctrine towards Black people cannot be explained in abstract terms, Lee said. If one believes in revelation, then the reason is clear. If he doesn't, then there is no adequate explanation. And today we will finish with this great quote. I have changed the word child to person. It says, no person should ever hear, you hurt God's heart. God is disappointed in you. How do you think that makes God feel? People are not responsible for God's emotions. And that's your update for today, folks. I absolutely hope you have the day that you deserve.